Good afternoon. Welcome to the ComplyNet presentation of what makes you a better risk. This presentation is going to demonstrate how we can achieve an ROI for your compliance efforts. You know, what we all recognize as dealers is that we're classified into a class code, and all too often, your lot has already been cast in what you're going to be paying for insurance premiums. You know, you are a used car dealer by nature. This is your NAICS code. You're a new car dealer, this is your code. And by code, we recognize that the class is rated as a consequence of elements that are included within the car dealer network. There's driving, there's cars, there's people. We'll go over that in a little bit. But there are a variety of variables that are contributing to your garage liability premiums. I'm not here to discuss how to change that premium number other than to get acknowledgement for the efforts and demonstrating your business as being a better risk. But the variables that are going to contribute to your garage liability premiums are things like inventory values or building contents and values. Obviously, the more value, the more you're going to pay in premium. Location, the rural is going to be paying a little bit less than urban. Head count, obviously, if there's more people in your dealership than less, you're going to pay for the head count. But what's interesting is when you get to policy. You know, these are variables contributing to your premium. And having policies, not only just having them written, having them documented, having them trained to, having them acknowledged from the top down means something when it comes to premium. We're going to leverage that activity, that experience that you have in the past. Deductibles and limits, we're going to talk a little bit about that and how you can accept higher deductibles in exchange for premium pricing. And then history, the frequency of losses versus severity. You know, I'm joined today by Adam Crowell, and Adam is the president of ComplyNet. I am a managing member, and my background, and both actually Adam and I's background, is we were actually users of this technology in this company before we became partners and bought the company. So it's kind of like that hair club for men thing where we're clients as well as owners, but we leveraged this solution in this very way. But we understood that when we had a renewal conversation, and by the way, I did this for many years in Chicago, the renewal conversations would typically go one of four ways. The renewal conversation was something like the industry's taking some losses, and while the industry's target's 11%, good news for you, we're keeping you at 7%. Irrespective of your losses, likely you're going to take an increase even if they were within target, or something like this. Good news, your histories remain stable, and we were able to keep your renewal premium at no increase. Well, whatever happened to the days of being able to take advantage of the opportunity of them going down? Likewise, your losses were not good this year, so we're going to have to demonstrate something. We recalibrate for the future. Good news is you can go shopping if you want to, but let's face it, now's not the time to be shopping this premium when you've got the losses that you've had, so you're stuck. Or something like even more stuck is we're exiting the market and you need to find an alternative insurance company. And now you are really put in a position where you need to have some documentation towards all of the efforts that you've made to mitigate your losses that demonstrate to an insurance company that your risk is worth preferencing. So what can you change? It's going to be tough to change that industry. You've chosen it. The market that you're in is the market you're in. If you're rural, you're rural. If you're metropolitan, you're metropolitan. Your history and your losses, not much you can change, but you certainly can acknowledge and document efforts to remediate any things that have happened in the past, something that we oftentimes overlook. And certainly the future you can change. And you change the future by creating a culture that is a top-down culture of compliance. So how do we change the conversation? The first thing we have to do as a car dealer is accept the obligation and the responsibility that you have being an employer and you being a provider of services for customers. It is your obligation to provide a safe workplace environment. OSHA will dictate it for you, but it is your obligation to do so. Likewise, the CDC mandates that you have an obligation, or the state governors mandate that you have an obligation to how you address the COVID issues and how you address things like that. But it's your responsibility to accept that it is the workers that are yours and the customers that come to you are yours. So you're doing it already in many ways. You're distancing and doing the things you need to do. You're doing other things to test drive policies and things that you need to do. But now we need to document what we do. We need to document it so we can differentiate ourselves from the class. You see, the class has already been determined. You already know that they already understand the risks. So changing the conversation gives you an opportunity to implement a strategy, likely a third-party strategy. Any third party that has an acknowledgement of all of the rules and regulations. You can't rely on one person in a car dealership to have that background, but to have a third party create a standardized approach to loss prevention, risk mitigation, and a culture of compliance gives you the opportunity to preference a risk, because which would you rather insure? And we'll talk about that in just a second. And being top down and consistent. You have to maintain consistency. You have to maintain adoption. You have to maintain that culture of compliance that suggests, I want it, you need it. So this was the action I was going to ask. Given the opportunity to insure a car dealership, and listen, I know this is the old service contract clause that used to say one has a service contract, one doesn't, which one's worth more money. Similarly, one dealership has a comprehensive loss prevention strategy and one has no documented prevention strategy. What should you preference? You don't know the difference. If they've had a loss, could have had a loss, might not have a loss. But the fact that you recognize that someone has a conscientiousness towards loss mitigation should and would preference the risk for an insurance company. You see, the insurance company is already priced for your class. What you have to do is you have to acknowledge that we need to create a differentiation. Yes, they know you have dangerous conditions. You all do. Yes, they know their employees and automobiles mixing. Lots of bad things happen when you have automobiles and employees. Yes, they know there's unique chemical exposures, and you have an obligation to ensure that your people understand how to respond to them and how your customers respond to them. Yes, they know their potential employee relations issues just by virtue of the disparate kinds of employees that you have in a car dealership. Blue collar, white collar, service, sales. They understand that. They also know that you're an obvious target for thieves and deception. It's just too easy. The open Wi-Fi connections, tentacle Wi-Fi devices, opportunities to have access to credit cards and social security numbers. It's obvious. Why do robbers rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do thieves target and deceive car dealers? Because that's where the information for deception lie. You need to know that, but the insurance companies already do. They also know that you have cyber risks, and they're getting more pronounced every single day. The insurance company knows that you should have something in place. Hopefully you do. But if you don't, they've priced for it. And if you want to get a cheaper premium for it, you have to demonstrate that you can mitigate for it. They also know that some states maintain different minimums, and those are all contributing to the price that you pay for your class. And they know that you're subject to inordinate rules and regulations. They know that. But complying with those rules and regulations give them a foreshadowing of what the insurance risk would be like writing any particular dealerships. You see, they've already priced the risk. Your fate's been determined and your alternatives are few. The only thing you can do is demonstrate differentiation. And differentiation through documentation is a hashtag you're going to see through here sometime. So demonstrate and document the difference. Show you have a documented compliance management system. Demonstrate that you have all of the elements of a CMS, including things like a consumer complaint management system and a culture of complaint opportunity. Demonstrate that the top-down culture of compliance, that you're the one saying that this needs to happen and I'm part of it. Make your managers accountable to your compliance strategy. And I would say by doing so, by tying their compensation to the adoption. Review, amend, and document your quarterly meetings. It's part of the CMS anyway, but taking and doing this is very important for you to document, for the insurance companies to recognize that you're a different type of risk. And this gives you the opportunity to accept higher deductibles for premium reductions. Not willy-nilly, not pell-mell or helter-skelter, but accepting higher deductibles where you've acknowledged where you can mitigate the risk and you're willing to take more of the risk as a consequence of your efforts. And if you're willing to take more of the risk, so should they, and they should do that in the form of premium discount. So accept the responsibility. If you had a strategy and you allowed it to wane, accept the fact that you had a strategy. If you've already had a solutions provider in place right now and they're not doing the job, accept the fact that you allowed it to wane. If you don't have a strategy in place right now, accept the fact that you know that it is your responsibility to do so. And if you're going to do it anyway, why not leverage it? Acknowledge that it really is your obligation to ensure a safe environment and a safe space for your customers' employees. Hold yourself and your leadership accountable to your culture. Don't talk about it, be a part of it every single day. Negotiate from a position of strength and participate more. And when I say participate more, I mean participate more. deductibles, involvement in meetings. Implement a strategy, identify a person responsible for the reporting, understand that this person is not going to know everything about compliance, but can be that fulcrum for you when you need to identify opportunities and risks and places where you need to go. This is the person that needs to resource those options. Document your plan. Document everything that you do. Expect participation and hold every single one of your employees accountable. Consider tying incentives to execution and outsource the management of the compliance system. Do this for the opportunity of expertise, subject matter expertise, but also for consistency cross-platform in the event that you change insurance companies, you change managers, you change direction, you change service contract companies. Have a consistent strategy on the backside of your compliance solution set to ensure that you have compliance. Make it top down and be consistent. Be accountable to your employees and your customers. Show and demonstrate. Don't just talk, demonstrate. And when I say demonstrate, participate, meetings, endorsement, deductibles, whatever the case may be, that's going to differentiate yourself, and continue to do so by identifying ways that you can show how you're different than the class. One of the things that we do at ComplyNet is we've created a project called Insurance Folio, which essentially aggregates a variety of different compliance activities and health scores for your dealership at renewal. You see, when you sit at a renewal, oftentimes what you're waiting for is just the bomb to drop and what's your renewal expense going to be. You're oftentimes ill-prepared for that meeting. Oftentimes, the insurance company that's bidding the insurance is ill-prepared only to understand a few of the limits that you're looking for, but not understand the culture and the backside of what you're doing. Folio ensures that both the incumbent understands the measures that you've taken to reduce risk, and the incumbent understands. If it's an incumbent provider, the Folio positions your activities for preferential renewal pricing, and any insurance salesman will tell you it's really difficult to get premium pricing for incumbent insurance policies. Typically what happens is you know more than you should, and they have oftentimes will not get benefit for activities. Much like different than the insurance quote that's put out to bid where you're very aggressive. The Folio paints that picture to preference your risks. Insurance Folio includes things like ordering your loss runs and ensuring that you're looking at them quarterly, not being surprised by reserves that are posted, and understanding why they exist. An analysis, review, and documented trends and strategies addressing these reserves and losses. Creating an operational readiness plan that doesn't just include an emergency evacuation plan and schematics, but it includes testing, that includes what would you do if in desktop scenarios as well. Dealership health monitor, you're going to hear about this twice in this Folio project, but we create an algorithm that basically dictates the health of a dealership based on their e-task scoring, their e-task remediation, the amount of training that they're doing, the amount of training that's on target and past due. Manifesting all of your EH&S inspections and aggregating those year to date for the insurance company to have to review, something they all can't do. Dynamic claims response documentation. If a claim happens and we are aware, we can respond immediately by providing documentation. Let's say it's a slip and fall, and all of a sudden we need to do slip and fall training. We can assign that training electronically and provide everybody the training mechanism to ensure that we have no more slip and falls. Now, is that important for your people to know? Sure. It's your obligation to ensure that they know how to address slip and falls. But more importantly, the insurance company now can recognize, yeah, I see we had an issue, but it doesn't seem like we're going to have another one. And here's why. And we can prove and document why. Sales F&I inspections and audit. This is an opportunity for you to ensure that you've let the insurance company know that you're in compliance with all the rules and regulations. Red flags audit, obviously an opportunity to prove that you're dialed in with understanding the red flag opportunity and the OFAC audits. Consumer complaint review, having a review where your customers and employees have a mechanism to complain, and do it before that gets to a regulator. Give them the mechanism to be able to identify what their concerns are, give them the opportunity to ask for what their remedy would be, and do this in advance of it all getting to a regulator. We have the system to do that. We can aggregate that information, just as well as STS chemical inventories. Your employees have the right to know how to respond to exposure to those chemicals. Your insurance company has the right to know that you've addressed those. We provide that type of documentation. Similarly, we understand that phishing is one of the premium mechanisms for breach in a car dealership, and their valuable data. Recognizing that that data that customers give to you every single day is subject to being stolen, your responsibility is to ensure to that customer that you've done everything you can to safeguard that data. One of the things that we do is we perform phishing audits to ensure that your employees understand not to open up attachments that might be dangerous. Safety team meeting notes. This essentially gives your insurance company the opportunity to know that your conscientiousness towards a consistent approach to loss prevention. The health monitor, again, we talked about the algorithm that basically bespeaks your ability to respond to e-tasks in a timely manner and to do training within a time construct. Review all the OSHA forms. We know, you know, that you have the obligation to post these forms and provide certain reportable and recordable documents to OSHA in advance of a certain day in April. We make sure that that's done, but not only do we make sure it's done, we make sure to manifest all of those reports for the insurance company, just like we do all the employee training by giving you a dashboard. All the employee policies, again, COVID is one, but gives you an opportunity to review those policies within a dashboard environment. And even in us going as far as to ensure that any of your customers that were subject to the IRS Form 8300 received notification by January 31st. That's your obligation. DOT and MVR audit processes, just because there's negligent adjustment issues, opportunities that if you're aware of any issues and people are driving demos or test driving, we make sure that those policies and procedures are in place to ensure your insurance company acknowledges those policies and procedures.
Thank you, Greg. As Greg mentioned, I'm Adam Crowell, President and General Counsel of ComplyNet. It is your absolute obligation to comply with the various laws, rules, and regulations that apply to you as an auto dealer. You have to comply with OSHA, EPA, DOT, Truth in Lending, repo laws. There's a ton of different types of laws and rules and regulations that you must comply with. It's not a choice. And let's face it, you need help. You can't possibly do all of this stuff alone. You need a trusted advisor that can come in and help you, and ComplyNet is one of those companies that can do it. But if you are going to have another company that's coming in and you are going to be taking your compliance efforts as you should be, it's not a choice. You must document. You must document, because if you don't do it, you're not going to differentiate yourself. You must differentiate through documentation. Otherwise, the insurance company just looks at you as another code number. So differentiate yourself through documentation and leverage that to achieve an ROI when it comes to your compliance programming. Everyone, thank you very much for attending today's presentation. My name is Adam Crowell, President and General Counsel of ComplyNet. Joined with me was Greg Levi, Managing Member of ComplyNet. Our contact information is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to either one of us. And we also hope that we see you today at the NIADA Virtual Expo. Please come by our booth and we'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Thank you.